Discipline changes everything. This audiobook reveals brutal, actionable methods to force discipline into daily life. Decisions that remove doubt, routines that become reflex, and accountability systems that eliminate excuses. Every minute you waste is stolen potential. This audio will teach specific steps to reclaim time, build momentum, and create habits that last. If results matter more than motivation, this episode is a shortcut from intention to action. Subscribe to Audiobook every day right now for weekly chapters that cut through fluff and deliver the tools high performers use. Press subscribe below and transform one small habit today into unstoppable momentum. Chapter 1. Decide once. Remove choice. Build discipline through commitment. Decide once. Remove choice, then watch the life that follows from that single act. Imagine standing at a crossroads with every moment offering two doors, one cramped with temptation, the other wide with purpose. Every time a decision is required, energy leaks. Discipline is not an endless reservoir of willpower. Discipline is the structure created, so decisions no longer drain the spirit. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That power begins with one deliberate decision made in advance. Begin by naming the one thing that matters most right now. Make the decision concrete. Vague goals fold under pressure. Saying "I will be more disciplined" is like buying a map with no route marked. Instead, choose a specific promise. Write 500 words each morning. Close the laptop by 9 p.m. 5 workouts per week. Save $300 each month. The mind will resist specificity because specificity forces accountability. That resistance is a compass. Follow it. Once the promise exists, make it binding. This is the core, the act of removing choice. There are 3 powerful ways to bind a decision: commitment devices, social stakes, and automation. A commitment device is a mechanism that makes breaking the decision costly. Examples: schedule a non-refundable deposit that is lost if the promise is not kept. Create automatic transfers to savings. Install an app that locks distracting websites during work hours. Social stakes turn personal goals into public contracts. Announce the decision to a friend, a community, or on social media. Share a simple daily update and invite someone to check. Humans value reputation. One quiet public promise alters private behavior. Automation is the silent ally. Parkinson's law warns that work expands to fill its allotted time. Use that law in reverse by compressing time. If writing is scheduled from 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m., the brain will carve meaning from the box. Pre-commit the environment. Lay out the notebook and pen the night before. Charge the laptop and remove distractions. Make the environment hostile to the old self and hospitable to the new habit. If resistance meets a door locked by design, the body will often choose the path of less friction, and that path should be the one leading to discipline. Translate the commitment into an implementation intention. Do not leave outcomes to chance. Use the simple formula: if X happens, then I will do Y. For example, if it is 6:00 a.m., then I will sit at the desk and write 500 words. This transforms abstract desire into a neural shortcut. When the cue appears, the clock, the alarm, the smell of coffee, the brain no longer debates. The behavior is triggered. Build 2 or 3 of these tightly defined triggers around the decision. Begin very small. Ambition creates momentum only when paired with realistic first steps. The Stoics taught that great ends are achieved through repeated little actions. The compound effect works here. Small actions, repeated daily, produce disproportionate results. Start with 5 minutes, not 5 hours. Complete 1 minute of resistance, then one more. Celebrate completion, not perfection. Success builds in tiny increments. The law of compounding favors the patient, consistent actor. Create a ritual that signals the start and end of the work. Rituals are sensory anchors. A ritual might be boiling water for tea, sitting in the same chair, lighting a candle, or taking 3 deep breaths. These small sensory cues prime the body for action. Rituals reduce decision fatigue. The brain recognizes the sequence and slides into a productive groove. Over time, the ritual will be the hand that guides the mind from resistance to flow. Design consequences as well as rewards. Humans respond to both pleasure and pain. The Stoic approach is not to chase comfort, but to make discomfort predictable and meaningful. For every unkept promise, apply a pre-agreed consequence. Donate to a cause disliked. Do an extra set of a difficult exercise. Post a confession publicly. Balance that with immediate rewards. A favored cup of coffee after the session, a short walk, or 5 minutes of reading something uplifting. The combination of immediate reward and delayed consequence forms a simple calculus the mind understands. Record progress daily. Measurement is truth. When a goal is written down and tracked, ambiguity vanishes. Use a single sheet of paper, a habit tracker app, or a spreadsheet, whatever will be used consistently. Record not only success, but context, how much sleep, hunger level, time of day, emotional state. These data points reveal patterns. If discipline erodes in the late afternoon, restructure the day so critical tasks occur in the morning. The Pareto principle applies. Identify the 20% of actions that drive 80% of results and double down. When failure comes, and it will respond with quiet clarity rather than drama. Stoicism trains the mind to separate judgment from action. If a day is lost, do not permit guilt to metastasize into giving up. Instead, analyze without cruelty. What was the trigger? Did a decision point remain open? Were environmental cues misaligned? Adjust the commitment eyes and try again. A single lapse is data, not destiny. Use negative visualization to steal resolve. Imagine the alternative: months of drift, the slow loss of confidence, the heavy voice of regret. Turn that image as clearly as a photograph and let it sharpen the decision. The Stoics used the practice to reduce fear and strengthen purpose. When the mind anticipates the cost of inaction, the immediate friction of the required action loses its power. Fear of regret is a potent fuel if channeled into disciplined choice. Consider the legal principle of binding arbitration as an analogy for discipline. In a contract, parties agree in advance to a decision-maker, removing future disputes. Apply the same logic to personal choices. Create a panel of accountability, trusted friends, a coach, or a small community who will receive weekly reports and provide judgment. This external referee reduces internal negotiation and creates a consistent standard. The decision is not renegotiable, it is adjudicated. Practice an end-of-day review ritual. Before sleep, answer 3 brief questions in a notebook. What was done today? What was missed? What will be improved tomorrow? This short reflective habit acts like a compass correction. It keeps the momentum aligned. Over time, these nightly adjustments compound into resilience and mastery. Language matters. Replace wishful phrases with legal-sounding commitments. I will is stronger than I want to. From today forward is stronger than someday. When speaking, use the past tense to close the loop. I decided, not I am deciding. This linguistic shift changes identity. The mind prefers consistency with identity. Behaving as someone who keeps decisions makes the mind work to be that person. Practical example. Decide once to write daily. Step 1. Specify the promise, 500 words. 6 errands, 6:30 a.m. every weekday. Step 2. Bind it. Set an automatic alarm, place a timer, prepay a coach to review weekly submissions. Step 3. Remove choice. Install a website blocker from 5:50 6:40 a.m. Place the phone in another room. Set the desk with paper the night before. Step 4. Create ritual. Boil water. Sit, breathe 3 times. Start typing. Step 5. Track. Use a simple habit tracker and record mood and sleep. Step 6. Consequences and rewards. Miss a session, donate $20 to a chosen cause. Complete 5 days, enjoy a small reward. Step 7. Nightly review. Note what helped, what did not, and adjust. Repeat without drama. Over months, the work that once seemed Herculean becomes ordinary and then effortless. Discipline is not cruelty toward the self. It is respect. It is the decision to treat potential like a promise. The Stoic asks, what kind of person will keep this promise? Act as if already that person. Act in small, consistent ways that align with that identity. Famous words recorded across centuries point to the same truth. Excellence is not a singular act but a habit. As one wisdom voice observed, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Hold this law close. Decisions, once fixed and defended, change the terrain of life. Finish each week with a simple contract review. Celebrate wins, no matter how small. Adjust consequences and remove new choice points. Borrow from legal practice. Update the contract whenever the world changes, but only with deliberate intention, not because of passing emotion. Recommit in writing. Publicly renew the promise if that proves motivating. The discipline desired is less like a mountain to be scaled and more like a house assembled brick by brick. Each brick is a pre-decided action, a removed choice. The structure grows, rooms appear, and life inside those rooms feels ordered, meaningful and free. Choose now to decide once. Remove the choice. Bind the decision. Design the environment and ritual. Track the truth. Use consequences and rewards. When the small repeated acts become the architecture of daily life, the person on the other side of resistance becomes the person who keeps promises, and that person will live with fewer regrets and more quiet power. If this chapter resonates and helps form a new habit, consider subscribing to follow the next steps toward mastering the inner citadel of discipline. Chapter 2. Master small wins daily to train discipline muscle. Progress is built through small wins stacked one on top of another. The problem most people face when chasing discipline is not a lack of motivation, but the crushing weight of trying to change everything at once. The mind looks at the size of the mountain and quits before taking the first step. True mastery of discipline begins not with gigantic leaps, but with deliberate, daily victories, so small they almost seem insignificant. Yet these victories, repeated consistently, forge the muscle of self-control and eventually build the foundation for extraordinary transformation. Think about how physical strength is built. No one walks into a gym and lifts the heaviest weight on the first day. The body must be trained progressively, with lighter weights, repeated over time, slowly increasing resistance. Discipline functions the same way. Each small win is like a repetition in the gym. One by itself may seem minor, but the accumulation of repetitions over weeks and months builds unshakable strength. A powerful law in psychology called the success spiral explains why this works. Each time a person accomplishes something, even something very small, the brain registers it as a victory. That victory builds confidence, and confidence fuels the next attempt. This creates a spiral upward, where discipline becomes easier not because temptation disappears, but because the identity of a disciplined person grows stronger. Instead of forcing the mind to fight resistance with brute strength, it gradually reprograms the way you see yourself. You stop asking, "Can I do this?" and begin declaring, "This is who I am." To apply this principle, choose one small action that can be completed daily with almost no chance of failure. The size of the win does not matter at the beginning, the act of showing up does. For instance, instead of promising yourself you will run 5 miles every morning, begin with a simple win. Put on running shoes and walk around the block. Instead of committing to writing an entire chapter in a day, begin with the daily win of writing 1 paragraph or even 1 sentence. The aim is not to impress anyone, the aim is to strengthen the muscle of discipline through consistent, achievable action. One real-world example can be seen in Jerry Seinfeld's "Don't Break the Chain" method. He committed to writing jokes daily, no matter how small. Each day, he placed a red X on a wall calendar. The visual chain of X's grew longer, and his only task became simple: don't break the chain. That single practice, built on small wins, created one of the most successful comedy careers in history. This method works because it shifts focus away from perfection and onto consistency. Discipline becomes less about the size of the action and more about maintaining the streak. There is also a principle from behavioral science called the aggregation of marginal gains. British cycling coach Sir Dave Brailsford applied it to turn an underperforming team into Olympic champions. He looked for 1% improvements everywhere. Better pillows for athletes to improve sleep, more efficient hand washing to reduce illness, slightly lighter equipment. The small improvements added up, compounding into massive success. Applied personally, the lesson is clear: small wins across different areas of life, sleep, focus, exercise, study, build into a disciplined lifestyle that seems unstoppable over time. To make this practice real in daily life, begin with one ritual that signals the start of your discipline training. If you want to become more consistent in reading, set aside 5 minutes at the same time each day, perhaps before bed. If you want to grow in fitness, commit to 5 push-ups every morning, regardless of how you feel. These small wins teach the mind the skill of starting, which is often the hardest part. Once you start, momentum carries you forward. Momentum is discipline's greatest ally, and small wins create it. There is also a deeper psychological benefit. Small wins provide immediate feedback. Unlike grand, distant goals, small wins offer proof right now that progress is real. The Stoics often emphasized living in the present moment, not being lost in anxiety about the future. A small win today embodies that wisdom. It keeps attention grounded in action, not abstract dreams. Instead of saying, "One day I will be disciplined," you demonstrate discipline today, even if only in a small way. Consider the story of James Clear, author of Atomic Habits. He transformed his life not through sudden dramatic change, but through gradual daily improvements. One of his earliest wins was as simple as showing up at the gym, but leaving after just a few minutes. This may sound absurd, but it taught him the most crucial skill: building the identity of someone who does not miss workouts. Over time, the workouts became longer and more intense, but the muscle of showing up had already been built. That is the essence of mastering small wins. Here is one practice to begin right now. Identify a habit you want to build, then shrink it down to something so small it feels almost laughable. If your goal is meditation, commit to sitting quietly for just 1 minute per day. If your goal is writing, commit to a single sentence. If your goal is fitness, commit to 2 push-ups. Do it at the same time each day and track it. The purpose is not to stay at this tiny level forever, but to prove to yourself you can be consistent. After a week, increase slightly. After a month, increase again. The muscle of discipline grows stronger each time you complete the action, no matter how small. The reason this works so powerfully is that it builds trust with yourself. Many people fail at discipline because they set goals so high they consistently break their own promises. Over time, they stop believing themselves. Each broken promise erodes self-trust. Small wins repair that trust. They say, "I do what I say I will do." Once that trust is restored, bigger commitments become realistic because the foundation is strong. The Roman philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Well-being is realized by small steps, but is truly no small thing." The wisdom of that statement echoes across centuries. A disciplined life is not built through sudden explosions of effort, but through small steps repeated faithfully. Those small steps transform character, shape habits, and ultimately determine destiny. Imagine for a moment two individuals. One sets an ambitious resolution to write a book in 3 months, but gives up after the first overwhelming week. The other quietly writes 200 words each day for a year. At the end of 12 months, the first has nothing but frustration. The second holds a complete manuscript. Small wins, multiplied daily, create outcomes that seem almost magical when viewed from a distance. This approach is not about lowering standards, but about building momentum. Discipline thrives on progress, and progress is addictive. Each small win creates a surge of dopamine, the brain's chemical of reward. Instead of discipline feeling like punishment, it begins to feel satisfying. The key is to design wins that are both achievable and meaningful, then stack them until they reshape who you are. The true challenge is patience. Small wins will feel unimpressive in the moment. They will not give the thrill of dramatic change. But patience is the soil in which discipline grows. The person who can endure the quiet repetition of small wins without seeking immediate glory becomes unshakable. The world is full of people who sprint for a week and collapse. Few master the slow burn of daily discipline. Train yourself to see each small win as a vote cast for your future self. One push-up is a vote for health. One page written is a vote for authorship. $1 saved is a vote for financial freedom. No single vote determines the outcome, but the accumulation of votes makes the identity undeniable. The more votes cast, the more disciplined you become. By mastering small wins daily, you condition your mind and body to choose progress over comfort. You no longer chase motivation because discipline becomes your natural state. Each day becomes an opportunity to place another brick in the structure of your future. And when the house is built, when the strength is visible, it will be clear that greatness is not a sudden gift, but the result of many small victories, repeated faithfully until discipline becomes who you are. If you found value in this message, carry it forward into your own daily routine. Begin today with one small win, and commit to not missing it. The path to a disciplined life does not demand perfection. It demands consistency. Day after day, small wins shape character, strengthen willpower, and build the quiet power of a disciplined soul. And when that power is yours, the life that once felt impossible becomes inevitable. If this message speaks to your journey, subscribe and stay connected for the next chapter in building unstoppable discipline. Chapter 3. Eliminate temptations. Environment shapes discipline more than willpower. Discipline is often misunderstood as a constant battle of willpower, as if strength of mind alone can carry someone through every challenge. But history, psychology, and real life tell another story. Willpower is fragile, temporary, and quickly depleted, like a battery that drains with every decision. Environment, on the other hand, is permanent. It shapes behavior silently, without negotiation, without requiring constant energy. The truth is simple. The easiest way to live with discipline is to remove the triggers of temptation before they have a chance to test you. Imagine someone trying to quit sugar while keeping shelves full of candy at home. Every glance at the candy creates a decision point, a small war between desire and willpower. At first, resistance might hold, but over days, weeks, or months, fatigue sets in, and the candy wins. Not because the person is weak, but because the environment was designed for failure. Discipline cannot thrive where temptation is constantly within reach. The Stoics understood this principle. Epictetus taught that freedom comes not from fighting temptations endlessly, but from structuring life in such a way that they lose their hold. The modern world has magnified temptations, endless notifications, streaming platforms, fast food at every corner. To stay disciplined, a person must take responsibility for shaping the spaces they live in, because the environment either reinforces goals or sabotages them. The first step is awareness. Notice the places, objects, and people that spark distraction. Keep a journal for a few days and record every time focus is lost. Patterns will emerge. The phone beside the bed that keeps you scrolling late at night, the cluttered desk that invites procrastination, the refrigerator stuffed with junk food that derails healthy eating. These are not minor inconveniences. They are anchors holding you down. Once identified, the work begins, not with fighting them, but with eliminating or redesigning them. Take the phone, for example. Research shows that even when a phone is turned off but visible, mental performance drops because part of the brain stays alert, waiting for stimulation. A simple change, placing the phone in another room during deep work, removes the battle entirely. That is the principle of environmental design. Remove the option to fail before failure has a chance to appear. One real-life example comes from successful author Cal Newport, who writes extensively about deep work. Newport never relied on heroic willpower to focus. Instead, he eliminated temptations by creating environments stripped of distractions. He used quiet, sparse spaces for writing, disconnected from the internet, and trained his mind to associate those spaces only with focus work. The environment became a cue for discipline, not a trap for procrastination. His success was not built on constant resistance, but on careful design. Here is a practice to apply immediately. Choose one habit you want to strengthen and conduct an environmental audit. Suppose the goal is healthier eating. Look at the kitchen. If chips, soda, and cookies are in the cupboard, remove them, replace them with fruits, nuts, or simple healthy snacks. The temptation is not fought, it is removed. If the goal is reading more books, place a book on the pillow in the morning so it is the first thing touched at night. If the goal is saving money, set up automatic transfers that remove spending money before temptation reaches you. This method works because behavior is heavily influenced by cues in the environment. Psychologists call them triggers. A desk with a game console on it invites gaming. A table with a water bottle on it invites hydration. The human brain is cue-driven, not just choice-driven. By shaping cues in the environment, discipline becomes the natural path. Think of an alcoholic who chooses to avoid bars during recovery. That is not weakness, it is wisdom. Why place yourself where temptation is strongest? Removing the trigger is a strategy older than philosophy itself. Ancient monks seeking self-mastery retreated to deserts and monasteries, not because they feared the world, but because they understood that environment shapes behavior. They created spaces where temptations were absent, leaving room for spiritual growth. The modern equivalent is simpler but just as powerful. Disable notifications on devices so the mind is not pulled in 100 directions. Unsubscribe from marketing emails that tempt spending. Block websites that waste time. Cancel subscriptions that drain both money and focus. Structure the home so that the tools for growth are visible and accessible while the tools for destruction are hidden or gone. This is not about controlling everything. It is about controlling enough to tilt the odds in your favor. Another valuable principle is addition by substitution. Elimination alone creates a void, but substitution fills that void with better choices. For example, someone who removes social media during breaks can replace it with journaling or stretching. The environment should not only take away what is harmful, but also invite what is helpful. Replace television in the living room with books, a journal, or creative tools. Replace the snack drawer at work with protein bars or fruit. Every substitution shifts behavior effortlessly because the environment silently whispers what to do next. Consider the story of Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps. His environment was engineered for discipline long before competitions. His bedroom was dark, cool, and free of distractions to guarantee sleep. His training space was structured so every piece of equipment was ready the night before. By the time he entered the pool, no temptation stood in the way. His victories were not just the result of talent and willpower, but of an environment shaped to make discipline automatic. This principle also applies to people. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." People are part of your environment, and if those around you constantly indulge in laziness or negativity, staying disciplined becomes nearly impossible. Surround yourself with those who reinforce your goals, not those who undermine them. Join communities that encourage growth, accountability, and focus. By shifting the social environment, discipline gains allies instead of enemies. One overlooked area is digital environment. Every app on a phone, every tab in a browser, every channel followed online is an environmental choice. Following accounts that glorify distraction feeds temptation. Curating feeds toward education, health, or inspiration removes one more enemy of discipline. Digital space is as real as physical space in shaping habits today. The practice of eliminating temptation is not about weakness, but about strategy. A warrior does not fight every battle. A wise warrior avoids ambushes entirely. By removing temptations from the environment, energy is conserved for what truly matters. Willpower then becomes a tool used occasionally, not a constant crutch. Picture a life where discipline no longer feels like struggle. The phone does not buzz during work. The kitchen does not whisper junk food. The workspace invites creativity instead of distraction. In such an environment, discipline flows like water downhill. The energy once wasted on resisting temptation is now available for building, creating, and living fully. Design life with intention. Remove what weakens you. Highlight what strengthens you. Surround yourself with reminders of who you want to become. A disciplined life is not an accident. It is an environment designed with wisdom. And once the environment is right, discipline feels less like a burden and more like freedom. The person who masters this principle no longer fights battles every hour of the day. They live in spaces that fight for them. That is the secret. Discipline grows not from endless willpower, but from eliminating temptations, so the path of discipline is the easiest one to walk. If this message adds value to your journey, carry it forward, build your environment with intention, and subscribe to continue learning how to turn discipline into a way of life. Chapter 4. Set clear boundaries and non-negotiable rules for yourself. Boundaries are the silent architecture of discipline. Without them, life becomes a constant negotiation with temptation, distraction, and weakness. Every moment then turns into a debate. Should I keep working or scroll for a while? Should I eat clean or just have one more snack? Should I sleep now or watch another episode? A person without boundaries is a person living inside chaos. Discipline does not survive in chaos, it suffocates there. Real growth begins when rules are drawn clearly and treated as non-negotiable. Think about how laws work in society. Imagine if stop signs were treated as suggestions instead of requirements. Roads would descend into accidents and endless disputes. But because the law is firm, stop means stop. Traffic flows with order. Boundaries for the self function the same way. They remove debate. They eliminate the daily drain of deciding. A rule once set is not something to argue with. It is something to live by. The Stoics spoke often about self-rule. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to stand firm like a rock that waves crash against but cannot move. That firmness is born from inner laws that are non-negotiable. When a rule is clear, behavior follows it without constant bargaining. The mind finds peace because decisions are no longer open for debate. One powerful practice is to establish personal constitutions. Just as a nation has a constitution to define its principles, a disciplined life requires its own guiding laws. These are not vague intentions, but precise commands written in uncompromising language. For example, I do not check my phone during the first hour of the day. I do not skip training sessions scheduled on weekdays. I do not break bedtime past 11 p.m. The word "do not" matters. It creates an identity statement. It transforms a wish into a law. A real-life example of this principle can be seen in Warren Buffett. He has a famous rule: he never negotiates on integrity. When asked why he refuses many opportunities, he explained that saying no to almost everything keeps life aligned with his priorities. His boundaries are so clear that there is no room for confusion. By setting these lines in advance, he protects his time and energy for what truly matters. Here is a practice you can use to apply this immediately. Write down 3 non-negotiable rules for your life. Keep them specific and measurable. One could be about health, such as, I do not eat fast food. Another could be about productivity. I do not open social media before finishing my main task. A third could be about relationships. I do not tolerate tolerant conversations in my inner circle. Place these rules where you will see them daily, on your desk, your phone's wallpaper, or your mirror. Every time temptation arises, the rule stands as a shield. Boundaries also protect time. Time is life's most irreplaceable currency. Without clear rules, it leaks away through interruptions and demands. Discipline requires guarding it fiercely. Successful people often block off chunks of time as sacred. Writers like Haruki Murakami treat morning writing hours as untouchable. Athletes treat training schedules as holy ground. These are not flexible appointments, they are firm boundaries. Treat your calendar as law, not as suggestion. It is equally important to communicate boundaries to others. Many people fail at discipline not because of their own weakness, but because they allow others to invade their rules. If your rule is I work without interruption between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., then others must know and respect it. Clear communication turns personal discipline into shared understanding. Without it, even the strongest rules collapse under external pressure. The power of boundaries lies in their ability to create identity. Each time you enforce a rule, you reinforce the belief that you are a disciplined person. Each time you break one, you weaken that belief. This is why non-negotiability matters. A broken rule is not just one slip. It is a signal to the mind that rules are optional. And if rules are optional, discipline crumbles. Protect the boundary fiercely, even when it feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is the price of self-respect. Seneca once said, "If a man knows not which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Boundaries provide the port. They give direction when storms of temptation blow. Without them, Every opportunity and distraction pulls you off course. With them, the path remains steady. There is a temptation in modern culture to glorify flexibility, to treat everything as open to negotiation. But the truth is, greatness comes from clarity, not constant compromise. A musician does not master an instrument by practicing only when inspired. A craftsman does not perfect skills by working only when convenient. They hold themselves to rules that are not broken. That consistency creates mastery. One way to test the strength of your boundaries is to notice how often you feel exhausted by decision-making. Decision fatigue is the tax of unclear rules. If every day requires asking, should I do this or not, energy is wasted before progress even begins. Non-negotiable rules solve this problem. When the boundary is absolute, no decision is required. The rule acts for you. Another real-world story comes from professional basketball legend Kobe Bryant. He was famous for his non-negotiable training rules. He woke at 4 a.m. to begin practice sessions, not because he enjoyed waking that early, but because the rule was fixed. While others negotiated with themselves, Kobe trained. That unwavering boundary gave him an advantage, measured in thousands of extra hours of preparation, which translated into championships and legacy. The challenge for most people is not setting boundaries, but keeping them. The mind will whisper excuses. Just this once. It doesn't matter today. I'll make up for it tomorrow. These whispers are the enemies of discipline. The way to silence them is to remember that every broken boundary weakens identity, while every honored boundary strengthens it. The strength you want tomorrow is purchased with the firmness you show today. To make this easier, tie your rules to consequences and rewards. For example, if one of your non-negotiable rules is no junk food, then breaking it could trigger a consequence such as donating money to a cause you dislike. On the other hand, honoring your boundary for a full week could earn you a small, meaningful reward. This makes the rule not only moral, but practical. Discipline is not about creating hundreds of rules. It is about creating a few powerful ones and living by them. Too many rules create confusion. A handful of strong, clear boundaries create freedom. When the rules are known, you no longer waste time negotiating. You simply live in alignment with your chosen laws. Picture your life as a fortress. Every wall is a boundary. Every gate is a rule. If the walls are weak, intruders flood in. If the gates are unguarded, enemies walk through. But when the walls are high and the gates are strong, you live with security, order, and peace. Boundaries build that fortress. They keep out what weakens you and protect what strengthens you. By setting clear boundaries and treating them as non-negotiable, discipline transforms from a fragile effort into a stable way of living. It becomes less about forcing yourself in every moment and more about following the laws you have already chosen. And when life is lived by those laws, chaos fades, clarity rises, and discipline becomes second nature. If this lesson resonates, start today by creating your first 3 non-negotiable rules and living by them with full conviction. Those rules will become the pillars of your character and the shield against distraction. And if you want to continue learning how to strengthen your discipline step by step, subscribe and stay connected, because the journey to self-mastery has only just begun. Chapter 5. Use deadlines and accountability to force consistent action. Deadlines and accountability are 2 forces that turn vague intentions into finished results. Without them, even the most motivated person drifts into procrastination, because the human mind naturally delays what feels uncomfortable. But when a deadline exists and someone is watching, the game changes. Suddenly, action is no longer optional. It becomes urgent, pressing, and real. Discipline thrives in this space, where pressure and responsibility meet. Consider the student who has weeks to finish an assignment. At first, time feels abundant, so the work is delayed. But as the deadline approaches, focus sharpens, distractions fade, and output increases dramatically. The deadline forced action where pure willpower could not. The same principle applies outside of school. Writers, entrepreneurs, athletes, those who succeed know how to create deadlines that demand progress, not excuses. Accountability multiplies this effect. When a promise is made only to yourself, breaking it carries little visible cost. But when a promise is made to another person or to a group, the stakes rise. Human beings are wired to care about reputation. We do not want to appear unreliable or weak in front of others. This is why accountability is such a powerful tool. It uses social pressure as fuel for discipline. Think about how gyms operate. Many people buy memberships, but rarely show up. Yet when they hire a personal trainer, attendance suddenly skyrockets. The workouts themselves did not change, but accountability changed everything. Knowing that someone is waiting, tracking, and expecting effort removes the option of hiding. Action becomes the only path. Here is a practice that combines both principles. Choose one important goal and set a firm deadline for it. Not a vague someday or soon, but a clear date and time. Then share this deadline publicly, even if only with a single trusted friend. Add stakes. If the deadline is missed, attach a consequence. For example, donate money to a cause you dislike, or take on an uncomfortable task. The combination of a deadline, public declaration, and consequence forces consistency in a way that sheer motivation never can. A real-life example can be seen in the way best-selling author Douglas Adams described his career. He once joked, "I love deadlines. I like the whooshing sound they make as they fly by." Yet when publishers enforced contracts with strict submission dates and penalties, his books were finished. The lesson is clear. Creativity and discipline flourish not in endless freedom, but under the pressure of deadlines and accountability. Deadlines also shape focus. Parkinson's law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If given a week to finish a task, it takes a week. If given a day, it takes a day. Deadlines compress time, stripping away unnecessary steps and sharpening efficiency. They force clarity about what truly matters and eliminate endless tinkering. Accountability can be structured in many forms. It could be as simple as a daily check-in message to a partner, or as formal as joining a mastermind group where everyone reports progress each week. It could mean publishing your goals publicly, so followers expect updates. Some even hire coaches not for advice, but purely for accountability. The knowledge that someone is monitoring is enough to maintain discipline. There is also the principle of shared struggle. Soldiers in training camps endure extreme hardships, not because they enjoy pain, but because accountability to their unit and the fixed deadlines of drills and missions make quitting unthinkable. The same psychology can be used in ordinary life. When your progress impacts others, discipline gains weight. This is why team projects often succeed where solo projects stall. To apply this at a personal level, start small. Take one task you have delayed and give it a deadline within 24 hours. Tell someone about it. Send proof when finished. The brain learns quickly that accountability plus deadline equals completion. Repeat this with larger goals. Build a habit of compressing time and involving others. Discipline will grow naturally under these conditions. An example of this principle at work is in the story of NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. Every year, thousands of writers commit to finishing a 50,000-word draft in 30 days. Most of them are ordinary people with jobs and families. Yet because the challenge has a clear deadline and the community provides accountability, books get written that otherwise would never exist. The environment of shared deadlines and accountability transforms hesitant writers into disciplined creators. Accountability also taps into identity. When you declare, "I am the kind of person who honors deadlines," you begin to act accordingly. The external pressure shapes internal belief. Each time you deliver on time, you prove that identity to yourself. Each time you fall short, the opposite happens. This is why accountability works best when paired with a strong personal rule. I do not miss deadlines. The mind then works to uphold that identity, supported by the watchful eyes of others. It is worth noting that not all accountability is equal. Choose carefully who you share goals with. Supportive accountability partners encourage progress and celebrate wins while holding you firm against excuses. Negative or careless partners can either be too forgiving or too harsh, both of which undermine growth. Seek those who balance encouragement with firmness, the kind who won't let you off the hook, but also won't shame you into quitting. Deadlines, too, must be realistic. Impossible timelines create burnout, while endless timelines invite procrastination. The sweet spot is challenging but achievable, enough pressure to demand focus, but not so much that the task feels impossible. Over time, as your discipline muscle grows, you can shorten deadlines to push efficiency further. The Stoic philosophers often reminded themselves of the shortness of life. Seneca wrote about how people waste their time as if they had an endless supply, when in truth life is short. That is the ultimate deadline, mortality itself. Remembering that time is finite can spark urgency far greater than any calendar date. Each day is its own deadline. Wasted days cannot be reclaimed. Living with that awareness brings intensity to every action. Picture two scenarios. In the first, a person has a dream of launching a business, but sets no deadline and tells no one. Years pass, and the dream remains only in their mind. In the second, another person sets a deadline of 3 months to launch, tells friends and commits to sharing updates weekly. The accountability forces them to work consistently, and the business opens. The difference is not talent or resources, but deadlines and accountability. Discipline flourishes when choice is reduced. Deadlines reduce choice by fixing time. Accountability reduces choice by fixing responsibility. Together, they create an environment where action is not a matter of if, but of when. That is the secret to consistent discipline, not endless motivation, but external structures that demand movement. If you are serious about building discipline, begin today by setting one clear deadline and attaching accountability. Do not let goals float in the vague space of someday. Anchor them with dates. Declare them aloud and let others hold you to them. When action is forced by structure, growth accelerates. And when you live this way consistently, you will discover that discipline is not a matter of struggling harder, but of designing a life where excuses cannot survive. The people who master this principle achieve results that astonish others. To the outside world, they appear unusually disciplined, as if powered by limitless willpower. But the truth is simpler. They use deadlines and accountability as tools, turning intentions into commitments and commitments into results. Do the same, and you will see how quickly your own life transforms. If this insight gives you clarity, subscribe now and continue this journey toward building the disciplined life you deserve. Chapter 6. Delay gratification. Teach yourself to crave long-term rewards. There is a simple truth about human behavior that separates those who struggle from those who succeed: the ability to wait. Most people chase quick pleasures, the instant rush of comfort, while the disciplined few train themselves to hold back in pursuit of something greater. This act of delaying gratification is not just about resisting temptation, it is about reshaping the way the mind assigns value. The moment you can crave long-term rewards more than short-term comfort, discipline no longer feels like punishment, it feels like freedom. Psychologists often reference the famous marshmallow experiment, where children were given a choice, one marshmallow immediately or two if they waited. Years later, researchers followed up and discovered that the children who resisted and waited were more successful in academics, careers, and even relationships. The lesson is clear: the power to delay gratification creates advantages that compound over time. Those who give in to every craving trade their future for a moment of relief, while those who endure discomfort today build the foundation for lasting success. The struggle, however, lies in the design of modern life. Everywhere we look, convenience and quick satisfaction dominate. Fast food, one-click shopping, endless scrolling, everything is engineered to give instant hits of dopamine. The brain becomes addicted to speed, always chasing the next immediate pleasure. To rewire yourself for long-term rewards, you must step out of this cycle and deliberately practice restraint, even in small ways. One effective practice is the pause method. Each time you face a choice that offers instant gratification, whether it's grabbing junk food, checking social media, or skipping a workout, pause for just 60 seconds. In that pause, visualize both outcomes. Picture yourself giving in and how you will feel afterward, often regretful and frustrated. Then picture yourself resisting, choosing the harder option, and imagine the pride and strength you will feel later. This small pause shifts the brain from acting impulsively to acting intentionally. Over time, the ability to pause strengthens the muscle of discipline, and the craving for long-term rewards becomes more natural. A real-world example can be seen in professional athletes. Their daily lives are filled with opportunities to indulge, yet they choose discipline because the vision of victory is stronger than the pull of temporary comfort. Consider Kobe Bryant, who trained relentlessly at hours when most people were still asleep. He delayed the gratification of sleeping in or partying, not because he enjoyed sacrifice, but because the thought of holding championships in his hands mattered more. His career became a testament to the principle that long-term rewards far outweigh fleeting pleasure. Delaying gratification also requires building systems that make the better choice easier. If your goal is financial stability, set up automatic transfers into a savings account so the money is gone before you can spend it. If your goal is fitness, prepare meals in advance so you are not tempted by quick unhealthy options. The key is to design an environment where long-term rewards are visible and accessible, while temptations are harder to reach. Another critical insight is that long-term rewards are not abstract. They must be vividly imagined. Telling yourself, "I want to be fit in a year," is too vague to overcome the pull of dessert today. Instead, picture yourself running with energy, wearing clothes that fit perfectly, feeling confident in your body. Attach emotion and detail to the vision, because the brain responds to vivid imagery. The more real the long-term reward feels, the more powerful it becomes in guiding choices. Delaying gratification does not mean rejecting pleasure forever. It means choosing when and how to enjoy it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that freedom is not found in indulging every desire, but in mastering them. To crave long-term rewards is to rise above impulses that enslave others. Every act of restraint is not a loss, but a declaration of control. You are proving that you own your desires, not the other way around. One practice to strengthen this mindset is what can be called voluntary hardship. Intentionally introduce small discomforts into daily life to train patience and resilience. Take a cold shower instead of a hot one. Walk instead of driving short distances. Skip dessert once a week. These are not punishments but exercises, small reminders that you are capable of choosing discomfort today for strength tomorrow. When real challenges come, the habit of delaying gratification will already be ingrained. A striking example is the story of Warren Buffett, who became one of the wealthiest men in the world, not by chasing instant gains, but by practicing patience in investments. While others sought quick profits, he waited years, sometimes decades, for the right opportunities to mature. His discipline was not just in financial strategy, but in character. He learned to crave the security and growth of the future more than the thrill of fast returns. His life demonstrates that wealth, success, and stability are the rewards of those who train themselves to wait. For the audience who struggles daily with impulses, remember this: every time you resist an immediate craving, you are not just saying no to that moment, you are saying yes to your future. Each choice builds evidence for the kind of person you are becoming. One skipped impulse may feel small, but repeated over time, it transforms identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles with self-control and begin to see yourself as someone who chooses strength consistently. There is also a deeper layer to this practice. Delaying gratification is not simply about self-denial. It is about aligning with values. Ask yourself, what kind of life do I truly want? If it is one of health, success, and peace, then every short-term temptation that pulls you away from it is not a reward, but a thief. Recognizing this truth reframes discipline not as deprivation, but as loyalty to your highest values. The path to craving long-term rewards is not always easy, but it is worth it. Begin by practicing restraint in small, low-stakes areas. Train your brain to experience pride in waiting. Celebrate each act of patience as evidence of strength. Over time, the pleasure you once sought in quick rewards will shift, and you will start to crave the feeling of control, progress, and long-term victory more than anything else. To those watching and listening, this principle is your key to transformation. You do not need superhuman willpower. You need clarity, practice, and patience. Start today by choosing one area of life where you will deliberately delay gratification. Commit to it, visualize the long-term reward, and design your environment to support it. Share your progress with others and track the victories, no matter how small. The reward will not just be success in that one area, but a reshaped identity that seeks growth over comfort. Discipline becomes unshakable when the taste of future rewards is sweeter than any fleeting temptation. Train yourself to savor the long game, and you will discover that the greatest satisfaction in life does not come from what is consumed quickly, but from what is built slowly, deliberately, and with patience. If this message resonates with you, subscribe and stay on this journey together. We are shaping lives that are not controlled by impulse, but powered by vision. Chapter 7. Track progress relentlessly and measure discipline with data. Progress without tracking is like walking in the dark. You may be moving, but you have no idea whether you are heading toward your goal or drifting further away. Discipline grows not only through effort, but through measurement, because what gets measured gets managed. The disciplined person does not simply hope they are improving. They gather evidence, they track, they record, and they use data as a mirror to reveal the truth about their habits. This habit of relentless tracking transforms vague intentions into visible progress, and visible progress fuels motivation to continue. Consider how athletes train. Every rep, every lap, every second is measured. A sprinter knows their exact times down to a fraction of a second. A weightlifter records the precise weight lifted each week. Why? Because improvement hides in details. Without measurement, the brain easily distorts reality. You may feel like you are working hard, but only numbers tell the story of whether you are actually improving. Discipline thrives when excuses are replaced with data. In daily life, the same principle applies. Many people believe they are eating healthy until they log their meals and realize how much sugar or calories slip in unnoticed. Others assume they are productive until they track their hours and see how much time disappears into distractions. Tracking exposes the gap between intention and reality, and once the gap is visible, discipline can close it. Here is a practice you can start immediately. Choose one area of life where you want more discipline, whether it's fitness, finances, or personal growth, and create a simple tracking system. It doesn't have to be complicated. A notebook, spreadsheet, or app works fine. Write down daily actions and results. For example, if your goal is to read more, record how many pages you finish each day. If your goal is to save money, write down every expense, no matter how small. The act of recording builds awareness, and awareness builds discipline. A real-world example of this principle comes from Benjamin Franklin. As a young man, he designed a chart to track his practice of 13 virtues, including temperance, industry, and humility. Each day, he marked whether he succeeded or failed in each area. Over time, this system gave him the feedback needed to refine his behavior and grow into one of history's most disciplined thinkers. Franklin understood that personal growth was not random. It required systematic tracking and honest reflection. Data also creates accountability to yourself. When you see a streak of days where you kept a habit, the mind becomes motivated to protect it. Missing one day is painful because it breaks the chain. This psychological effect, sometimes called the streak effect, turns tracking into a motivational tool. Suddenly you are not just doing the habit, you are protecting the evidence of your progress. Technology has made this easier than ever. Fitness trackers measure steps, heart rate, and sleep. Budgeting apps categorize spending. Productivity tools log hours and tasks. But remember, tools are only as powerful as the discipline behind them. Checking a tracker is not enough. You must reflect on the numbers and adjust your behavior. Data should not just be collected, it should be used. Another powerful element of tracking is celebrating measurable wins. When you see progress in numbers, running faster, saving more, studying longer, you experience a sense of victory that fuels further effort. Progress becomes addictive, but in a healthy way. Instead of chasing shallow dopamine from distractions, you chase the deeper satisfaction of improvement. This is how discipline evolves into desire. You begin to crave progress itself. Let's take the example of someone training for a marathon. At first, running even 1 mile feels like a struggle. But by logging runs daily, noting distance and pace, they watch improvement unfold week by week. What once felt impossible soon becomes routine, and the numbers prove it. This visible transformation keeps them running on days they don't feel like it, because the data shows that consistency compounds. The same principle works whether your goal is building a business, learning a skill, or mastering self-control. It's also important to track setbacks. Many people avoid this because it feels discouraging. But recording failures is just as valuable as recording wins. Data without honesty is meaningless. By documenting missed workouts, overspending, or wasted hours, you reveal patterns. Perhaps you notice you skip workouts on Mondays, or you overspend on weekends. These patterns allow you to plan and prepare. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about learning from the data of both success and failure. A key mindset shift is to view tracking as self-respect, not punishment. Recording your progress is not about judging yourself harshly. It is about honoring your commitment. Just as a business tracks profits and losses to survive, your personal growth requires metrics. Without them, you are flying blind. With them, you can steer your life with precision. To make this practice even more powerful, combine tracking with reflection. At the end of each week, review your data. Ask yourself, what improved, what declined, and what will I change next week? This reflection transforms raw data into actionable wisdom. It keeps discipline alive by turning numbers into decisions. A story that illustrates this comes from Jerry Seinfeld, who used a simple calendar system to track his writing. Each day he wrote jokes. He marked a big red X on the calendar. His only rule: don't break the chain. Over time, the chain of X's grew, and the visual data kept him disciplined. That simple tracking system built one of the most successful comedy careers in history. The beauty of measuring discipline with data is that it removes emotion. On days when motivation feels low, data still speaks the truth. You may feel like you are not making progress, but the numbers prove otherwise. Or you may feel like you worked hard, but the data reveals you barely scratched the surface. This objectivity prevents self-deception and anchors discipline in reality. One of the greatest mistakes people make is waiting until the end of a goal to measure. They only step on the scale after months of dieting, or only check savings after years. By then, it is too late to adjust. The disciplined person measures constantly, adjusting course along the way. Success is built in small corrections, not giant leaps. To those listening, the message is simple. Do not trust memory. Trust measurement. Start with one habit, one notebook, one chart. Build awareness, collect data, and let the evidence guide you. Over time, you will not only track progress, you will crave it. Watching numbers rise, streaks build and patterns emerge becomes its own reward. Discipline becomes less about fighting impulses and more about chasing growth you can see with your own eyes. If you want to transform your life, begin by tracking it. Every action, every choice, every result is data. Use it, and discipline will stop being a mystery. It will become a process you can see, measure, and master. The disciplined life is not about perfection. It is about relentless honesty with yourself, measured daily. If this resonates, subscribe now, because the journey to discipline is not built on reas, but on data, and the more you measure, the more unstoppable you become. Chapter 8. Harness pain and consequences as motivation for discipline. Pain has always been one of life's greatest teachers. It cuts deeper than comfort, it lingers longer than pleasure, and it leaves lessons that are impossible to ignore. While most people run from pain, the disciplined person learns to use it as fuel. Pain reminds us of what happens when we neglect our responsibilities. It reminds us of what is lost when we live without control, and when harnessed correctly, it becomes one of the strongest motivators to act with discipline, because the cost of inaction is often far greater than the discomfort of discipline itself. Think about a moment when you touched a hot surface as a child. The sting was sharp, unforgettable, and it instantly taught you not to repeat the action. That is how pain works. It teaches faster than comfort ever could. Now imagine applying that same principle to habits, goals, and personal growth. Instead of seeing pain as an enemy, you can use it as a compass. Every sting, every setback, every uncomfortable truth points toward what must change. Avoiding this feedback keeps people stuck. Facing it and using it for discipline transforms lives. Consequences are the natural partners of pain. Every choice carries a price, whether immediate or delayed. Eat poorly, and eventually the body breaks down. Waste money, and financial stress follows. Ignore opportunities, and regret takes root. Discipline is born when you connect deeply with these consequences before they arrive. The mind must see the cost of laziness as vividly as it sees the benefits of discipline. When the price of inaction feels heavier than the effort required to act, the choice becomes obvious. One practice to strengthen this connection is called future projection. Sit down and visualize your life 5 years from now if you continue avoiding discipline. Imagine the physical pain of declining health, the stress of unstable finances, or the emptiness of unfulfilled goals. Make it detailed. Hear the conversations. See the disappointment in your own eyes. Feel the weight of regret. Then shift the vision to the life you could build if discipline becomes your path. The contrast between the two futures will burn into your mind, making the present moment of discomfort feel small compared to the long-term pain of consequences. A powerful real-world example of this principle is seen in individuals who recover from health scares. Someone may ignore exercise, eat recklessly, and neglect sleep for years. Then a doctor delivers a warning, a heart attack risk, a diagnosis, a wake-up call. Suddenly, discipline no longer feels optional. The fear of death or decline becomes sharper than the craving for comfort. Many people radically change their lifestyles in response to pain because consequences finally became undeniable. The lesson is clear. Waiting for crisis is not necessary if you choose to harness the awareness of consequences today. There is also a hidden truth about pain. It builds resilience. Every time you endure a challenging workout, resist a craving, or push through discomfort, you increase your tolerance for future struggles. The brain rewires itself to handle hardship. What once felt unbearable becomes normal. This is why soldiers, athletes, and entrepreneurs often seem unshakable. They have trained themselves to associate pain with growth, not defeat. By leaning into discomfort instead of avoiding it, they use pain as a conditioning tool for discipline. Another practice is called self-imposed consequences. If discipline slips, attach a penalty. For example, if you skip a workout, donate money to a cause you dislike. If you fail to complete a task by the deadline, take on an unpleasant chore for someone else. These penalties transform small failures into learning opportunities, ensuring that discipline is reinforced by the sting of consequences. Over time, the brain learns that breaking discipline carries a cost, making it less likely to repeat. History is filled with figures who understood this principle. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote about preparing the mind for hardship each morning, reminding himself that life would bring difficulty. By expecting pain and accepting consequences, he strengthened his will to remain disciplined no matter what arose. He saw discomfort not as something to escape, but as part of the training of the soul. In the same way, every modern challenge can be reframed, not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity to practice resilience. Consider the story of a man who wanted to quit smoking. For years, he failed because the pleasure of nicotine outweighed the distant health risks. But when his young daughter began coughing from second-hand smoke, he saw the consequence with fresh eyes. The pain of knowing he was harming her became unbearable. That moment of clarity created discipline where years of half-hearted attempts had failed. This shows how pain tied to values, such as protecting loved ones, can be even more powerful than pain tied to personal suffering. Pain also strips away illusions. When people avoid discomfort, they often live in denial about their habits, but when pain arrives, it forces honesty. The failed exam, the empty bank account, the broken relationship, these are signals that discipline was missing. Instead of numbing the pain with distractions, the disciplined person sits with it, studies it, and allows it to shape new habits. This honesty is uncomfortable, but it is also the gateway to change. The truth is that life will bring pain, whether you choose discipline or not. The difference is that disciplined pain is temporary and purposeful, while undisciplined pain is prolonged and destructive. The pain of a workout lasts an hour, but the pain of poor health lasts decades. The pain of saving money means sacrificing luxuries now, but the pain of financial ruin is far heavier later. Discipline asks you to pick the pain that builds instead of the pain that destroys. If you want to put this into practice immediately, Choose one habit you want to improve and design a consequence for failure. Tell a friend or family member about it so you cannot escape. If you fail, pay the price. If you succeed, enjoy the pride of growth. This simple system uses pain not as punishment, but as motivation, transforming discipline from theory into action. Pain is not the enemy. It is the reminder that growth has a cost. Consequences are not curses, they are the natural laws of life, keeping you aligned with reality. Together they form one of the strongest forces for building discipline. When you learn to harness them, you stop fearing discomfort and begin respecting it as a teacher. For those listening now, reflect on this. The pain you fear today is small compared to the pain of regret tomorrow. Discipline is the bridge that saves you from that future. Use pain wisely, embrace consequences as guidance, and let both push you toward the life you know you are capable of building. If this message speaks to you, subscribe and join this journey of strength, because the disciplined life may be uncomfortable at times, but it will always cost less than the life of regret. Chapter 9. Create rituals and routines to automate disciplined behaviors. Discipline becomes much easier when it is not left up to daily willpower, but instead woven into the structure of your day through rituals and routines. Think of it this way: every decision you face drains mental energy. If every morning you have to argue with yourself about whether to wake up early, whether to exercise, whether to work on your goals, you'll eventually give in to comfort. But if those behaviors are automated through ritual, they no longer feel like choices, they feel like part of who you are. And when habits become identity, discipline stops feeling like a battle. Imagine waking up tomorrow and instead of scrolling on your phone, you immediately pour a glass of water, stretch for 5 minutes, and open your journal. At first, you would need effort to remember and push yourself, but after weeks of repetition, it would feel strange not to do it. That is the power of ritual, consistency without debate. Rituals take discipline out of the emotional realm and lock it into a predictable rhythm. One practice to begin is designing triggered routines. A triggered routine means attaching a disciplined action to something you already do daily. For example, every time you make your morning coffee, immediately sit down to write your daily goals. Every time you brush your teeth at night, take 2 minutes to plan tomorrow's priorities. These anchor points create automatic links, so your brain doesn't have to work hard to remember. The existing habit becomes the trigger for a new disciplined behavior, and over time, the chain becomes unbreakable. A real-life example of this can be found in professional athletes. Before a game, most athletes follow a precise routine, specific warm-up drills, mental focus exercises, even superstitious gestures like tying shoes in a certain order. These rituals are not just quirks, they prepare the mind and body to perform. Without them, anxiety and hesitation creep in. With them, discipline becomes automatic. You don't see an athlete debating whether to warm up, they simply go through the sequence because it's ingrained. That same level of automatic preparation can be applied to studying, working, or even relationships. Consider how rituals shape entire cultures. In Japan, the tea ceremony is not just about drinking tea, it's about respect, presence, and mindfulness. The structured steps elevate a simple action into a powerful ritual that trains attention and discipline. Similarly, monks around the world wake at the same hour, chant the same prayers, and follow the same daily order. Their discipline is not born from raw willpower, but from the structure of ritual that holds them steady, no matter how they feel. This is why routine is stronger than motivation. It does not depend on mood. Another powerful way to use rituals is through bookending your day. The way you start and end your day has an outsized effect on how disciplined you feel. A chaotic morning sets the tone for distraction. A distracted evening leads to restless sleep. But when your day begins with a set ritual like water, journaling and 10 minutes of focused work, you immediately feel in control. And when your day ends with winding down rituals like stretching, gratitude journaling, and planning tomorrow, you protect your energy for the next day. These bookends anchor your life in discipline regardless of what happens in between. Think about people who appear highly productive and consistent. Often they don't have more willpower than you. They simply have non-negotiable routines. A CEO may work out every morning not because she feels like it, but because it's scheduled the same way brushing her teeth is. An author may write 500 words daily at 7 a.m., not because inspiration strikes, but because it's ritualized. Routines transform high performers into machines of consistency by stripping away the exhausting back and forth of decision-making. The most important part of creating rituals is making them repeatable and sustainable. Many people fail because they try to build routines that are too complex. Start small, choose one behavior and attach it to a reliable trigger. Repeat it daily until it feels automatic. Once it requires almost no thought, layer another ritual. This stacking approach prevents burnout and builds discipline step by step. Over time, your day becomes filled with small, structured actions that align with your goals, leaving little room for chaos or distraction. One overlooked benefit of rituals is the way they protect you from temptation. When your day has predictable order, you don't leave gaps for bad habits to creep in. A person who eats at the same scheduled times is less likely to snack impulsively. A person who meditates at the same hour daily is less likely to drown in stress. Routines act as guardrails, keeping you on track when motivation weakens. Here's a story to illustrate this. A man struggling with fitness decided to ritualize his evenings. Every day after work, he put his gym clothes on immediately upon arriving home. That was his ritual: clothes first, gym second. At first it felt silly, but soon his brain made the connection. Clothes meant movement. Over months, the ritual became so ingrained that skipping the gym felt like breaking a natural law. His discipline skyrocketed, not because he loved exercise, but because he created a ritual that bypassed excuses. Another example comes from Benjamin Franklin, who famously followed a structured daily schedule. He woke early, asked himself what good he would do that day, worked in ordered blocks of time, and ended the evening reflecting on what good he had done. His life was not guided by bursts of motivation, but by carefully designed rituals that supported his values. His consistency was the byproduct of structure, not inspiration. The truth is, every disciplined life looks boring from the outside. It's built on repeated actions, predictable routines, and steady rituals. But beneath that apparent simplicity is freedom. The freedom to achieve without wrestling with indecision, the freedom to focus without drowning in distractions. While others waste energy on whether they should act, the disciplined person simply follows the rhythm already set. If you want to experience this shift, design one morning ritual starting tomorrow. Keep it short. 10 minutes is enough. Choose a sequence, like hydrate, stretch, write 3 goals. Do it every morning without exception. The goal is not intensity but consistency. Within weeks, you will notice that your day feels anchored. And when you add more rituals, whether for work, health, or relationships, you will see how routines quietly shape a disciplined life without constant inner battles. The secret most people miss is that freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. Freedom comes from rituals that keep you steady when motivation fades. When you automate discipline, you no longer rely on energy or mood. You simply live inside a structure that moves you forward day after day. Rituals transform your habits. Routines reshape your character, and together they make discipline something you no longer have to force. It simply becomes the way you live. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on where your life feels chaotic. That chaos is a sign that ritual is missing. Start small, build steady, and let the power of routine carry you further than motivation ever could. And if you found value here, subscribe so you never miss these lessons on building the disciplined life that pushes you toward the future you know you deserve. Chapter 10. Stay disciplined by reviewing, adjusting, and recommitting daily. Discipline is not something you achieve once and then keep forever. It is something that must be renewed each day, much like brushing your teeth or eating food. A strong body is built from repeated exercise and proper nutrition, not from one intense workout. In the same way, a strong mind and disciplined character are built by reviewing your actions, adjusting where necessary, and recommitting to your goals every single day. If you treat discipline as a one-time decision, it fades. If you treat it as a daily practice, it grows unshakable. Think about how a pilot navigates an airplane. The plane is almost never perfectly on course. Winds shift, weather interferes, instruments need correction, but the pilot doesn't panic. Instead, constant small adjustments keep the plane heading toward its destination. Life is no different. No matter how disciplined you are, you will drift. Temptations, stress, and fatigue will push you off course. The key is not to demand perfection, but to review your progress, adjust your path, and recommit to where you're going. The act of self-correction is what keeps you disciplined long-term. A simple daily practice is to take 5 minutes every evening to ask 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I slip? What will I do tomorrow to improve? Writing down these answers forces you to face reality instead of drifting through life on autopilot. Many people fail because they avoid reflection. They don't want to admit when they've been lazy or distracted. But avoidance doesn't protect you, it weakens you. Brutal honesty, even in small doses, strengthens your discipline like steel tempered by fire. A real-life example of this can be seen in the journals of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. Despite ruling an empire, he spent his nights reflecting on his actions and reminding himself of his principles. He reviewed where he had been patient and where he had been short-tempered, where he had acted with wisdom and where he had failed. These nightly reviews were not for anyone else. They were his way of holding himself accountable. Over time, this habit kept him grounded, disciplined and focused, despite the chaos of leadership. The second part of this process is adjustment. Reflection alone is not enough. You must change your approach when something isn't working. If you notice you consistently skip your morning workout because you sleep too late, the adjustment may be going to bed earlier or preparing your clothes the night before. If you see that social media ruins your focus every afternoon, the adjustment may be setting time blocks where your phone is out of reach. Small tweaks prevent repeated failure. The undisciplined person makes the same mistake daily. The disciplined person learns, adapts, and grows stronger. This is where humility becomes essential. Many resist adjustment because they want to believe their plan is flawless, but life is fluid, and discipline requires flexibility. Bruce Lee once said, "Be water, my friend." Water adapts to whatever container it's in while still remaining powerful. A disciplined life must flow in the same way. Rigidity breaks when circumstances shift, but flexibility allows you to keep your discipline alive in any environment. The third step is recommitment. Every morning is a reset button. Yesterday's failures don't matter as much as today's choices. When you wake, you have the chance to recommit to your goals and values. Many give up because they see one mistake as the end. They miss a workout and think the whole plan is ruined. They procrastinate one day and assume they are failures. In truth, discipline is not about never falling. It's about standing back up every time you do. Recommitment turns setbacks into momentum. Here's a practice you can adopt. Create a morning recommitment ritual. Before diving into the day, read a short statement you've written about who you want to be. Something like, I commit to focus, patience, and strength today. I commit to using my time wisely and living by my values. Reading this daily keeps your mind anchored. Over time, it conditions your brain to treat discipline as a daily vow rather than a vague intention. Consider the example of athletes training for the Olympics. Their lives are filled with review, adjustment, and recommitment. After every performance, coaches break down their actions frame by frame, highlighting mistakes. The athlete then adjusts their technique, practicing again and again until it sticks. And each morning they recommit to the grueling journey ahead, knowing the competition is still years away. Without this cycle, they would never reach the highest levels of performance. The same process can be applied to your life goals, whether they involve fitness, career, relationships, or personal growth. Many people rely too heavily on motivation, hoping it will carry them through the hard days. But motivation is fleeting. One day you feel unstoppable. The next day you want to quit. Reviewing, adjusting, and recommitting create consistency. Even when motivation disappears, they keep you moving forward on discipline, which is far more reliable than emotion. There's also a psychological reason this process works. Reviewing builds self-awareness, adjustment builds problem-solving, and recommitment builds resilience. Together, they train the brain to expect progress even after setbacks. Without review, you stay blind to your weaknesses. Without adjustment, you repeat the same failures. Without recommitment, you quit at the first obstacle. But with all three, discipline becomes a lifelong habit instead of a passing phase. If you want a practical challenge, start with a 7-day cycle. For 1 week, spend 5 minutes each night reviewing the day with those 3 questions. Then write one small adjustment you'll make tomorrow. Finally, every morning, read a commitment statement to remind yourself of your purpose. After 7 days, review how you feel. Most will find their focus sharper, their energy better directed, and their self-control stronger. Discipline doesn't require giant leaps. It requires consistent, small practices repeated daily. One of the biggest traps people fall into is perfectionism. They want the perfect routine, the flawless streak of discipline, the unbroken record of success. When they fail, even once, they crumble. But the disciplined life is not about perfect performance. It's about constant recalibration. Think of an archer. The arrow does not always fly perfectly straight. But with practice, feedback, and correction, the archer learns to hit the target more often. You are the archer, and your daily reviews are the adjustments to your aim. To stay disciplined, remind yourself that life is long, and progress compounds. Missing one goal today does not ruin your future if you recommit tomorrow, but ignoring reflection for weeks creates a slow decay that is hard to notice until it's too late. The disciplined person is not the one who never fails, but the one who never stops recommitting. If this message has reached you today, understand that discipline is not about being superhuman. It's about being consistent enough to grow over time. Review your day with honesty, adjust your strategy with humility, recommit to your values with determination. Do this not once, not occasionally, but daily. Over months and years, you will build a life of discipline so strong that no temptation, setback, or excuse can break it. And if you want to continue strengthening your mindset with powerful lessons like this, make sure you subscribe so that you keep receiving the guidance that helps you rise every single day.